once again to Daily Manna, this featured presentation brought to you by St. Mark that's designed to help you to feed your faith and starve your doubts. My name is Terrence Gray. I'm humbly honored to have the opportunity to be both teacher and presenter for today's segment as we continue studying inside of 1 Corinthians. We are presently in chapter number 14. We pick up at verse number 6, and we're going to read down through verse 12. In the National Version, listen to the word of God. Now, brothers and sisters, if I come to you and speak in tongues, what good will I be to you unless I bring you some revelational knowledge or prophecy or word of instruction? Even in the case of lifeless things that make sound, such as the flute or harp, how will anyone know what tune is being played unless there is a distinction in the notes? Again, if the trumpet does not sound a clear call, who will get ready for battle? So it is with you. Unless you speak intelligible words with your tongue, how will anyone know what you're saying? You will just be speaking into the air. Undoubtedly, there are all sorts of languages in the world, yet none of them is without meaning. If then I do not grasp the meaning of what someone is saying, I am a foreigner to the speaker, and he is a foreigner to me. So it is with you. Since you are eager to have spiritual gifts, try to excel in gifts that build up the church. And thus far, the word of God. And hopefully, as we've had a chance to really work through this First Corinthians, this book of First Corinthians, we are able to see all the more how Paul is adding layer and layers of bricks and mortar to this argument and this conversation regarding how divisions has been introduced in the church by way of people coming to God through a certain kind of proclaimer. Whether it was Apollos, Cephas, or Paul, they were trying their best to come to God as revealed through Jesus Christ, and they were claiming the authority of who they were based upon the person that through which they, or the lineage through which they came to know God through Jesus Christ. Even further, there was the distinction in relations to people operating in gifts. And that which is evident is that inside of Corinth, that the gift of tongues was considered to be the most cherished and the one most sought after, and the one that was the distinguishable one, that meant that the person was operating inside of God's divine order. And so it became something that people coveted and something that was being done regularly. Paul here is trying his best to help the church as he's dealt inside of the chapters 12 and 13. In 12, you recall, he spent time lifting up the manifestations of the Spirit. In chapter 13, he takes the time to discuss that the intentions of the individual in the use of the gift is important. And here in chapter 14, he comes right to the heart of the matter and begins hammering away that says, you're speaking in tongues, but don't nobody know what you are trying to say. In essence, as you're doing it, if there is no clear distinction in some form of intelligible, understood language, what benefit is there in the speaking of tongues to the body? If the body has no knowledge of the conversation, what good is it? What are you doing at this moment? What is taking place? What is happening? And so Paul here is saying to them, there has to be some distinction. He even talks about lifeless instruments such as the harp as well as the flute and even the trumpet. And he is clear about certain sounds and the distinguishableness of the sound, which therefore allows one to know what is being played. And even when it comes down to the trumpet, it gives a distinguished sound for battle, which means that people know for what reason it is being sounded. So it is with the human life and the human person. If there's going to be the time in which tongues are going to go forth, Paul here is arguing and saying that he rather for there to be intelligence in the conversation in the body, rather than for there to be just verbiage going into the air, for the edification of oneself as one speaks on behalf of God. That's what Paul is doing in this opening conversation for Monday. For us to be serious about our time with God, especially when we are around others. There's one thing to be caught up into a time of prayer and seeking God's face, and to therefore be in his presence, and to speak in all kinds of tongues as the Spirit of the Lord gives you utterance for one's personal edification. But what benefit is that when one is with the masses and God is trying to convey a word to that person or to the people, and there's so much opportunity to speak in tongues that there is no edification or some knowledge or some revelation being provided to the person that's considered to be the unbeliever. I do, and I share with people many times that I had the opportunity to pastor in Macon, Georgia, and while there were persons who found themselves even on live radio broadcasts, just speaking completely in tongue, in prayer. There was not an opportunity for there at times to be any intelligible conversation where one was able to understand what was being said, but there was the clear understanding that one was speaking in tongues. Did that mean that that person was more holier than anybody else? No, it did not. But it meant that there was a moment in which people missed the opportunity for one to even understand what somebody was praying for. And is that not for the benefit of the individual who's speaking, or is that for the benefit of the person who is receiving? Somewhere along the line, we have to see that what Paul is arguing is how we can best represent God as revealed through Jesus Christ to the world through intelligent speaking, that people might have audible sound and clear meaning and instruction. Well, we're not out of time. We're not out of word. We're just out of time, and we look forward to our continuing of this thought as we move through the 14th chapter of 1 Corinthians, as we pick it up tomorrow. But until then, know that I love you, and God bless.